Hey everyone, this is Lindy.
I'm Russell.
From Love, Create, Celebrate. Welcome back to our channel where we share all of our home DIY and home renovation videos.
Today on the channel we are going to be sharing how to install board and batten for beginners.
Russell is here because it's a renovation tutorial.
So we need to batten down some board.
If you have not subscribed to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you can be notified of more great DIY and home renovation videos. This is going to be as simplified a version of board and batten as we can share.
We're going to go through all the steps from how to select your moldings, to measuring and laying out the moldings, to your final install and finish.
So if you have ever wanted to learn about board and batten, we're going to show you today the easiest ways to put it up.
This video was sponsored by DAP. DAP supplied all the caulking, construction adhesive, and putty for the installation of the board and batten.
We're going to link to the materials we're using below, and we'll tell you how we used everything as we go through the video. This is the finished space that we will be working on in today's video. We did a nice, modern, tall board and batten that wrapped around all four walls of these commercial bathrooms. When it comes to choosing molding for your board and batten, there are lots of different options out there. We have done quite a few different molding feature walls and accent walls, and all of them have different molding sizes and different designs that create different feels in the room. While these designs aren't specifically board and batten, they do give you an idea of how different moldings can affect the mood of different rooms. For our board and batten tutorial today, we are using 1/2 inch thick moldings that are 2.5 inches wide. This board and batten was done as part of a makeover that we did for a local hair salon bathroom. I will link that video up top if you want to see the whole makeover, but today we're just going to focus on how we did the board and batten in these bathrooms. Once you have everything off the walls, you'll want to clean up any nicks and holes that were left behind. We used a small handheld sander to sand any pieces of drywall or things that were sticking out from the wall. And then we used the Alex Plus spackling and a putty knife to fill in any of the holes and cracks. The next step is to figure out how high you want your board and batten to sit on the top end of the top piece of molding. In our case, we're going to do a really tall board and batten, so the top piece of molding is going to sit at 72 inches from the floor. Then you want to draw a nice level line around the whole wall or room.
Okay, so I got my level. This is where my built-in's going to be. So anyways, this molding isn't long enough to go across the whole room. And I will miter it and I will hide it the best I can, but sometimes because buildings move and stuff, it will crack where you miter it. So if you can pick spots where you're going to hide it, like for instance behind a door, or in this case it's going to be behind a mirror, then it's not as critical. So this scenario, it should be behind the mirror when we hang it. And then here I thought I was going to have to miter one, but I actually, because the cabinet we're going to have the molding come into, I'm actually just have to cut this molding here, and then it's fine, it's hidden. So that makes my life easier.
If you do need to splice boards together like we did, this is how we typically do it. This is a video from a different molding wall project we did, but you can see how we mitered the top and bottom boards so that they fit together beautifully on the wall. Once you have the lines for your top pieces of molding on the wall, you can cut your casings to fit. You'll either cut them at a straight 90-degree angle, or you can turn the boards upwards and cut a mitered 45-degree angle so that the boards rest nicely on top of each other where they need to be spliced together. Then we used multi-purpose construction adhesive to apply glue to the entire backside of the board before nailing it up on the wall. We also put a little bit of a construction adhesive on the ends of the boards when it was about to meet up to another board or meet in a corner. Put your boards in place and attach them to the wall using a nail gun. If you don't already have baseboards on the bottom of the wall, you'll want to put those on now as well, using the same methods as we did for the top molding piece. Once you have the top and bottom moldings in place, you can move on to figuring out the spacing you want between all of your board and batten pieces. Figuring out the spacing is probably the hardest part about doing board and batten, so if you can figure out how to do these measurements, you definitely can put up one of these feature walls. The first thing I'm doing here is measuring the entire distance of my first wall. The next thing I'm doing is measuring the width of the moldings that I'm putting up, which are 2.5 inches wide. And with these two measurements, we can now figure out our molding spacing. Let's say that this is the wall we're working with. We've already put on our top molding and our baseboards. We need to figure out the distance from here to here, which we've already measured to be 106 inches. For our design, we want a piece of molding on each corner, so we'll put those in place. And now we have to figure out how many other boards we want and how many spaces between the boards that creates. At this point, you can choose the number of boards you want to go for. That can be based on other pins or rooms you've seen, and you can always change that number after. In our case, I want to see what 6 more boards looks like, 8 total on the wall. We know that the entire wall is 106 inches and that our moldings are 2.5 inches wide, so we can figure out the spacing we need between each of our moldings. First, we'll find the total distance of our moldings, which is 2.5 inches times 8 moldings to get 20 inches. Then we'll figure out the amount of space we need, and to do this, we'll take the total wall width minus the molding width to get 86 inches. Then to figure out the amount of space between each molding, we take 86 inches divided by 7, which is our number of spaces, to get 12.25 inches. It seems complicated looking at all of these numbers, but it took us less than 30 seconds to figure this out on my calculator. Because the math is so fast, if you do it and find that the spacing is either too wide or not wide enough, you can easily recalculate just taking away a molding or adding an extra molding until you're happy with the spacing. You can see from the many marks on our first wall that we calculated and recalculated until we were happy with our spacing as well. I definitely recommend doing this, measuring out the spacing, tracing the edges of your molding, and measuring the spacing again along the whole wall to make sure you're happy with the look before you nail anything down. Now that the spacing is figured out, we can start placing all of those vertical boards. If you're choosing to do a design with squares or horizontal pieces in it, it'll be the same process for attaching the boards to the wall. Start by measuring the length of the board you need from the top of your baseboard to the bottom of the top molding. Transfer that line to a new piece of molding and use a saw to cut it in the right spot. Again, we used construction adhesive to attach our moldings to the wall. We just added a small amount along the back side and at the top and bottom of each molding piece so that it would stick nicely to the wall and also the top and bottom moldings. This piece is going into a corner that we already know is true, but usually you should use a level to make sure that your molding is straight before you nail it to the wall. Then use a nail gun to attach the moldings to the wall. Don't worry if there are small gaps between the moldings because we will be filling any of those gaps with caulking after, but if you do have any of the construction adhesive pop out above the molding, you'll want to use a damp cloth to remove that right away. Continue this process as you add your molding pieces to the rest of the wall. For these bathroom spaces, we actually wrapped our board and batten pattern around all 4 of the walls. If you are doing something similar, you want to try to keep the spacing pretty consistent as you move from wall to wall. The walls opposite one another can usually have the same spacing, but the other two walls, you'll just want to try to make the spacing as close as possible to the rest of the room while still having everything look equal and neat. When all of your boards are in place, you can grab your caulking and caulking gun and fill any gaps between the boards and the walls or in the corners. We used DAP's Alex Flex for this, which is a great molding and trim sealant. We really focused on putting the sealant in the corners of the room and along the top and bottom rails because all of the vertical slats were already pretty tight to the wall and we knew we would be painting over everything after. To get a really smooth finish with our caulking, we like to use a little squeegee tool and some water. I will link to that little tool in the description below because it's really handy and saves your fingers from getting filthy. Then we'll use our Alex Plus spackling one more time to fill in any of the nail holes along the board and batten pieces that we put up. When your putty dries, give everything in the room a good sand to make sure it is nice and smooth, and then you are ready for paint. We used a paint sprayer to paint this room and it went really quickly and easily, and I will link that post up top for you if you want to check out our paint sprayer. So once again, here is what our bathroom looked like when all of the board and batten was up on the wall and painted. I love the look. Board and batten can add so much texture and character to a space. It's easy to do and we would definitely recommend this DIY to anyone. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and let us know what you thought in the comments below. And of course, if you have any board and batten questions, leave those in the comments as well. And don't forget to hit that bell so you can be notified of more great DIY and home renovation videos.
Thanks for watching.
No. You said best twice.
Best is twice better than one best. If you do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and
subscribe for other videos.